Huh, I already did that.
Hey, just so you guys know, this is being live streamed over, I guess, Facebook page,
Our website.
our website. So when we get into, after we do our election, and I just talked to Roman, he's going to get out here in a minute. We'll have very general discussions regarding kind of what's going to happen moving forward, just because it's being recorded and it's out there to the world, and we don't want to share it with the world our game plan.
Is there an option not to have it recorded so we can actually
not
talk,
at this point. So we've
talk
had
turkey?
yeah, well, we had this discussion yesterday, and we're going to sort that out. And leadership knows our concerns regarding that, because this is our opportunity to have this time to discuss it. But we're going to look at other alternate means to do that, so that yeah, we'll have time to where it's not out there in the world.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna run and get a cup of coffee if that's okay.
Now,
Yeah,
But
let's take about a 10-minute break till we get Roman on, and then we'll get started.
It's just to the kitchen. It's not like to down the block.
Do we need your vote? Let's make sure you walk safely and then you bring the coffee back safely. Don't be running.
Yeah, no running, right?
Take that from work. Don't run in prison. Don't run at home.
My running days are way low over. All right, I'll be back.
Hi, good morning, Roman. Can you hear us? Hey, Roman, just a heads up, we're taking a few minutes to get the rest of the team on, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Perfect. Yeah.
I didn't run.
Good morning, Barbara. Happy to have you join.
Good morning.
Morning. All right.
We want to see faces for at least a few minutes.
Hi, Sue.
Hi. Oh, I like your hair.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to figure out what was going on with my computer because I couldn't originally log in. And it was because somehow I didn't understand her saying that we were going straight to the breakout sessions. I remember her mentioning the link. So I'm sitting there trying to get into the other one, trying to figure out why it's not working. So I didn't get a chance to eat. So I was like, oh, shoot.
Well, you may
Yeah.
eat. Don't worry.
Yeah. So that's what I was doing.
I have my Trader Joe nuts. I'll be snacking on it.
He'll be snacking.
All
No
right,
worries.
team. So it looks like we have everyone on. So I think we are in good shape to get started. So welcome. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Olga Kripanov. I am staff on the contract department with Local 1000. And we'll go ahead and get started with roll call. And also, we don't anticipate this meeting to go long, so we shouldn't need a break, but if we do, we'll make that determination. All right, and so when I call your name, if you can please come off mute and identify yourself. So Robert Holtz.
Here.
Thank you. Barbara Guzman.
Here.
Thank you, Barbara. Terry.
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you. Sue.
Here.
Thank you. John Richards.
Good morning, Olga. I'm here.
Morning. Thank you. Thank you. Roman Sanchez.
Good morning. Here.
Thank you, Roman. Edwana.
Here, actually, you pronounce the T as Edwana.
Edwana. Thank you so much for that correction.
You're welcome.
And Mish.
Here.
Thank you. All right. Wonderful.
I have a question. Is there a reason why Mish is twice on my? Is
Yes,
there
so
somebody
the
else
reason we
that's
have
also there?
Mish twice is because her laptop and her phone are both connected to the Zoom call, so she can see us and hear us well. For good audio, she had to use her cell phone.
Got it.
Yeah,
I've had those problems. I've upgraded a bit.
yeah. My iPhone works perfect, but it's so I could be able to see more on. So I use the
Yeah.
laptop, but yeah, I've got to upgrade to the laptop.
Wonderful. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. But before we do that, if we can have our election committee member introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mish Block-Shirls. I've been with the union for quite a while. I am an ethics officer and a Form 700 compliance officer for the Franchise Tax Board and chief steward for District 786.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Mish.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. We have some election rules to go through as well as procedures. And then once we complete that, then we'll go ahead and we'll open up for nominations. Today, we just have one vacant position to fill, which is the alternate bunk member position. So to get started with the rules, regarding governance, Local 1000 policy file supersedes any and all conflicting SBAC rules. The bunk election committee is appointed by the Local 1000 president. The nomination rules are: DBERS may only run for one office at a time. Candidates will be allowed 2 minutes to address the SBAC members regarding their candidacy for each position. Only bunk members may run for one of the 3 bunk officer positions: chair, vice chair, alternate vice chair. SBAC members who are not physically present on the Zoom meeting may accept a nomination as long as they have arranged ahead of time a way to formally accept that nomination. This is usually done through a letter. Self-nomination is permitted. Now on to voting. Only officially recognized DBERS are eligible to vote for bunk or alternate positions: chair, vice chair, and alternate chair, vice chair, I'm sorry. All voting will be by secret ballot using the Zoom polling function, and Debers must remain in the Zoom meeting during balloting. So once the election starts, we do not stop. We encourage everyone to stay on the Zoom call till election is over. Guests and observers may not participate in the election process and are not permitted in the Zoom meeting during the election process. So we'll have the guests admitted after that portion is completed. Now onto the election itself. Elections are won by majority of votes cast. Necessary runoffs elections will be held immediately after the two candidates with the highest votes totals. Ties will be decided by flipping a coin done by the election committee member. Upon receipt of all eligible votes in the Zoom polling function, results will be immediately announced by showing the poll results on the screen. Candidates have 1 hour following the final vote tally announcement to file an election protest with the election protest committee by informing the assigned staff member, which is me, and I can give you my phone number in a second. And decisions of the election protest committee are final and binding on all parties. I'll go ahead and share my phone number with you all in case you need to contact me. My cell phone number is 916-397-5663. And again, if you need to contact me, feel free to call or text. Okay. Any questions about our election rules?
I'm sorry, this is Twana. Could you repeat your number again?
Absolutely, yes. Area code 916 397 5663.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any questions about the rules? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and move into the election procedures. Election committee members will introduce themselves and remain present to monitor the election proceedings, which is what we just did a moment ago. Staff will confirm only eligible voters are in attendance using the unit attendance sheet and performing roll call. So the only folks who are not eligible to vote is me and the Metro staff, and also Mish, our election committee member. Okay. Candidates will be allowed 2 minutes to address the SBAC members regarding their candidacy. Election committee member will keep time. Votes will be cast for each open position after all candidates have addressed the SBAC members. And decisions of the election protest committee are final and binding by all parties. And since we only have one position to elect, there will be no repeats. Okay, and at the end, I will go ahead and announce the results. And then since that, as well as the time, and since that time, individuals have an hour to lodge their protest if they need to. Okay, any questions, folks? Okay. In that case, I think we are ready to open up our nominations. So if you have a nomination to make, please use the function of raising your hand and I will call on you and record the nomination for the third alternate bunk member position. Okay, I see, oops. Robert, go ahead.
I nominate Roman Sanchez.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Okay, looks like we have one nomination. Since we do not have any opposing candidates, I don't think there is a need for a poll. We will still give Roman an opportunity for his 2-minute speech. So Mish, when you're ready, if you start the timer and give Roman a heads up when his 2 minutes is starting.
Okay, is he ready? Roman, are you ready?
Good morning. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me start the clock. Go.
Okay. Good morning, esteemed officers, election committee members, and all members that may be on this call. I'm grateful and thankful to be a part of this committee. My skill set, I'm adaptive, creative, I'm cooperative. I've been with the state as a teacher, as a supervisor for approximately 17 years. I think my experience with the state would be valuable to this committee because I know a little bit of the historical background within the union and our fights and plights within the state. So once again, good morning, and I'm thankful and grateful to be here today.
Thanks, Roman. Okay. At this time, since we do not have any opposing candidates, Roman, do you accept this position?
Yes, I do.
Wonderful. Congratulations, Roman. And that
Thank you.
concludes our election for today. I will go ahead and pass on the results to the contract department director, and that will be recorded on our website. Okay. So the election end time is 10:24. If there are any protests, you have an hour to contact me to lodge your protest. At this time, I think we are all wrapped up with the election, and I will go ahead and pass it on to Robert. We do not have any guests.
Well, good morning and congratulations, Roman. Where are you at? Where do you work? Where are you physically at?
I'm in Northern California, just out of Sacramento and Vacaville.
Perfect.
Yes,
And
747.
Right on. No, the reason I ask is because as you look at this team, Atuana's down in RJD. I then follow up in kind of the Los Angeles area, Southern California area. We move up the state, and you got Terry Hibbard and Sue Knapp, on the Central Coast, Terry in the Central Valley. Got Barbara. I actually skipped over Barbara. Sorry, Barbara. Barbara's kind of Tehachapi, Lancaster. Ramon Navarrete, he's up and he's not on a bunk, but he's an active DLC president for unit, and he's unit 3. He's at Solano.
Yeah, we work together.
Yeah, awesome. So, and then you, and then John Richards kind of wraps up the state up top of Northern California. Just so you guys know, this is recorded and being live streamed, so we're not going to really get into too much about bargaining issues, but I'm going to cover a few things just because, you know, you woke up, you made coffee, and you kind of made it here this morning. I appreciate it. But we had this conversation with the chairs, and, you know, we think it's great to have transparency and get information out, and people that want to watch and see what's happening, that's great. But when it comes to bargaining, those are going to be confidential discussions. Those are going to hopefully be at some point in person, where we can get together. Hopefully we can manage that. And if nothing else, we will start using, you know, Zoom in this manner here moving forward. This really kicks off bargaining. You know, the discussion with leadership is, let's get started early. Let's start organizing. Let's get people realize that, you know, we're around, and start moving forward. So what I'm going to do, I go on union leave beginning May 24th after the vacation. And I'm going to, and I don't know if Terry, if this has already been done, but particularly for this contract, I'm going to go in and go to the table of contents and and gather all the Unit 3 stuff from the table of contents, and then put that in a Word document, and then each of those sections then populate into the rest of a document so that we have unit-specific language that we can look at. We're not going to be distracted by all the other master stuff because that's going to be more of a union strategy. So I'm going to get the unit-specific stuff into a document before the end of the month, get it out to you guys. From this previous contract, I want to start looking at it, start thinking of the things that have been challenging to us, things that we want to lift up, kind of be, our flag that we're going to move forward, and kind of work in that manner. Yeah, so I wouldn't worry so much about the master language because that's going to be more strategic, money. Other than the things that we've been talking about regarding, salary schedules and Vogue stuff, that seems to be coming in order with our 519.3 committee. Thank you, Sue. And then Melissa Vartanian, she's the new Unit 17 or 20? 20 chair. She's put together a 8-week tour, and it's going to be mostly prisons. There will be some state hospitals. There'll be school for the deaf, and it basically starts in San Diego, moves through the Imperial Valley, up through Riverside County and Blythe, picks up the school for the deaf, moves into Southern California. There's a couple state hospitals, some veterans homes, travels up towards Barbara's area, CAC. And I'll get this out to you here short, I don't know if I'll get it out this week because I'm only around a couple days. And then moves into the Central Valley and then basically stops at Sacramento area. So I was talking to Terry last week, and I think it really would be good use of time and really great way to develop leaders is to and we've had some light discussions about this weekend regarding getting union leave for, the bunks that are in those areas, because get you guys out there into your facilities and some other facilities nearby, and then, be able to meet with individuals, talk to them, they get to know who you are, start building that team, activate other members, and actually, I'll be real frank with you, an 8-week tour, I don't think I personally could not sustain. I mean, I don't see any lapse, and therefore going home in the way she had scheduled it out. But I think what it'll probably best do is if, like I said, if we utilize that Iguana down in that week in San Diego, and then Cassandra Shannon over in Imperial Valley, and a couple of the others, and then just kind of move up. Like I said, Terry, definitely the Central Valley, and then Barbara. And even talking with Barbara to see. Part of the problem that I see with that schedule so far, and I'm going to talk to her, is she starts at June 20th, and we go on vacation shortly thereafter. So I'm going to see if she'll move it 2 weeks, because talking to some of the other chairs, they actually have vacation time scheduled as well during that time, so that we don't miss those 2 opportunities to take care of looking at those areas of that are in those first 2 weeks. Those definitely would be a missed opportunity. And then finally, I think one of our biggest things that we're going to look at in this upcoming cycle is the calendar. I know that's caused a lot of concerns and people are not happy. But people need to realize if we don't really get to negotiate that, they don't even have to agree to anything that we propose. And trust me, Terry and I worked real hard to get them to change some things, and there was no way. It was just kind of a strange disconnect with the LRA or LORO. So I think that's something that's going to be at the top, because quite frankly, as soon as that calendar came out, that caused a lot of concerns, and I think people think that we have an opportunity to make those changes, and that's not really how it goes. So when you're talking to folks out there, let them know. Look at 25.1.3. They don't even really have to accept any of the stuff, and if they want, they can just unilaterally say, here it is. And I'll be real frank, Terry, I would say that's basically how it went. They just unilaterally said, here you go, love it or leave it. And we didn't love it, so we just kind of moved on. Go ahead, Sue.
So I was just curious if indeed OC just didn't even talk or include that very dramatic change of a 7 o'clock start time on the first Wednesday. Did they add that afterwards, or did you guys check with the mock one that they gave you? Because I think that was, interesting that they chose to add it after there was ample opportunity to even have it be discussed. That's my question. I can't hear you, sorry.
I had to step away for just a second, but can you just repeat what you did? I apologize.
For the calendar, I was just curious if OCE had it in there, or was that something that was added after you guys met? Because to me, that's very telling of, so.
So the way this all went down, we actually met in January, and then apparently Melinda maybe was off for a period of time, and we didn't actually get a date again until March. And when we first met with Stephanie, we were really trying hard to remove all those bulleted points and really get it down to, hey, look, you get them, you use them, you lose them. And all those other bullets we looked at as exceptions. And we were okay with the exception of if you started late in the year, or if you left it early in the year, to where you potentially could get AR'd for it. So
which is true.
Which is fine. So, but for the 99% of us that are going to be around that start the school year off, we get our 4 days, and that was what we left in January. So in, I guess, March or April, when it was, they came back and they didn't know where the hell their memo was, and I think they actually spent an hour after we got on talking to them, and we need a caucus, and I think they went in and chopped up some stuff and put it back out. But there's one line in there that I do not remember seeing when they showed it to us, and it was one about 55 days. It was kind of in there, but that was in there, but there's another line that's in there that was just like, it didn't exist during our discussion. And then not only that, the idea of them taking over the training day for part of the day wasn't there. And so those came out, and that was never even, we never saw that. So we were just like, wow, that was kind of ridiculous. And the sad thing is that they're surrounding this issue of the calendar and flex, and they're using ARs as why they need to do it. And Avenal, apparently just about every instructor there got hit with an AR, but they can't explain why. When I say they can't explain, personnel can't explain why these are occurring, and they're really odd numbers, not full day amounts. Like they're like $187. And actually, I'll be real, I was really surprised. Rod Brawley actually had a reliable, actually a accurate answer. And Terry and I know it's their business practices. It's a point in time when they do these ARs. And apparently, and I could send the email out, apparently the personnel specialists at Avenal did it beginning, let's say August 1st and went through, July, whatever, 31st, and somehow a portion of that day got caught up in it and the calculations didn't work out. But if they had moved it one day backwards or forward, it works out. And he says, we've been trying to get personnel specialists fix it. So that kind of gives a really good explanation, Terry, of why in the past where there was all these oddball numbers, it was just the business practice, the way they calculated, where they went back and audited time. If they audited it one way, it came back as an AR. If they audited it the correct way, it came back clear. So we can't come back after that issue. I think it's a big bargaining issue that we're going to have. And,
Definitely.
yeah, it's. I think that's going to be one of our primary topics. And take a look at that language, 25.13, and let's see what, like, and John's got his hand up, and I want to hear from him to take a look at calendar. So go ahead, John.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment about the calendar if I could before we
Okay.
leave the topic.
Sure.
One of the things, just kind of as we discuss this without going too in detail with bargaining, is considering what a win would be and how much OCE is willing to give up the power that they already have in this. And there might be other things that are more worthy of a fight. So that's just kind of the wisdom from the past, possibly, because I think we have other avenues to satisfy those things, voluntary PLP, and people retire because of medical, they retire because they get in trouble, they resign because all different reasons. So to attribute all the ARs because of our calendar is foolish and nonsense.
Well,
Okay.
they're using that, Sue. That is what they've anchored, and Terry can confirm that.
And that shows they're not so swift.
Yeah. Yeah. Good choice of words. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. Hey, so there's some people that don't want any flex days in their calendars anymore because of the availability, because of PLP 2020. They now have time on the books where they can get VPLP. Our payroll specialists, and so I've got hung up multiple times based on the calendar and the way they do the calendar. So sometimes it's the 1st, sometimes the 2nd, sometimes the 28th, whatever the day is where their month ends, we turn in our 998. Then it goes forward. I don't actually believe all of our teachers really look at the time that comes off of their Cal Connect account on a monthly basis, or if they get a paper check. And educating them is an opportunity to organize. Our payroll specialist at CHCF, we had to grieve her every month because she took the wrong time over and over, and then she got promoted. And then the AW just, and the chief deputy warden said, I don't know what's wrong with them, but you need to continue to grieve this so you guys can have the right time banks taken from, because some are use it or lose it. Our payroll specialist at Pelican Bay is relatively adamant that if they schedule a 224-day calendar and you don't take those, and the way they phrase that, they have locked themselves into paying us for 224 days. So there's one school of thought that says you should take your time in August, which Robert and I kind of agree to see if they will not allow us to take it. And there's the other strategic standpoint that says, don't use them all year, although you're taking a risk. If they tell you not to take them and they calendared those number of days, they owe you 4 days, which can then go into some other time bank. I can't imagine payroll. And we do need to pull our people, because there are people with varying opinions just at Pelican Bay. In fact, there was a very funny text string outside of work where some people wanted 6 or 8, and then some people wanted 0, because that way they didn't have a use it or lose it, and they had plenty of opportunity for VPLP. So anyway, I think we need to look at it from a payroll standpoint. I also think we need to organize around the fact that we have all these different time banks, and I know that I use my PNL all 3 days and I still have it. So then I had to go back and figure out where they took my time from. And payroll specialists don't always know, but we have a good one right now. So that's my 2 cents worth. Didn't cost anybody anything. And it's a good conversation to have at all the sites, and then maybe send out a Zoom, because it was really a hotter topic than even salary, because people don't like to be working more than they get paid for it. People don't like the fact that they're telling you now that it accrues, when in fact there's no way that accrues. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, good point, John. No, that's a actually different perspective that, you know, don't use them and then kind of force their hand. So it's kind of I'll think about that one when that, you know, because that really is a unique opportunity to really stick it to the man.
You can take it in August and I'll not take them, and we'll see which one works out better.
Well, we meet in the middle, but you know, I'm saying we go back out and they ask for 8, but that's just me.
That'd be a good raise if you don't take them.
Yeah. So, but they are in a bank, not in a kind of a nebulous place, right? And that's where they're at now. They're in a very nebulous, non-existent.
The funny thing that I don't understand, and I think our attorneys need to actually explain this to me, and I'm not the world's brightest guy. I'm going to be the first one to admit it. But it says on the top 220 days, and then it schedules 224. That to me is an incongruency. So if they're going to give us that time, like you said, that is in a bank that you have to use those. I mean, the state of California does not put people into places and then not pay them. And I don't know what OCE is even thinking when they say you accrue these, and if you don't take them, you lose them. That's a them problem. I think they're creating a management problem that we're trying to solve. And it makes me curious why we are solving their problem without getting something for it.
Good point. All right, Terry.
Okay, this is responses to Sue and John. One of the things we can do is I've already started asking people in my area, what do you want to do with flex? You want to keep it? You want to get rid of it? If you want to get rid of it, where do you want that time to be placed in the calendar? Because that's what flex is. They took scheduled time off and gave us the flexibility of those days. So even and John, the calendar says 224 days. It takes into account those flex days. So because normally those days would be scheduled someplace, so therefore it would only be a 220-day calendar. We discussed this a few years back. What happens if you wait to the end of the year and want to say tack it on to the 2 weeks in June and July, and they say, no, you can't do that? Do they have to pay us? And I don't think we ever got an answer legally from that. I would think they would have to pay you because of the 224 days. Because I remember one facility, and this is when we had 6 days, a number of teachers did that, and the principal was not a happy camper, but he let them go because he had no choice. The next thing is when I looked at the Avenel stuff, and just to clarify, every teacher but 2 got an AR, and it was kind of leaned against that it was due to flex time. It's like, well, that's ridiculous, because like Bob said, the amounts didn't make any sense. We're still trying to find out why that happened. That's ridiculous. But I do remember when we were talking to the state, the way they talked about the flex time is if, say, Bob wants to take all 4 of his in August, and if they do an audit on payroll in November, they're going to ding him for 3 flex days and send him an AR. That was my understanding, the way they said it. Now, at the end of the year, if he doesn't take any more, which he wouldn't be able to, they now owe him money, so now he has to apply to get back. That was my understanding, and that's stupid. I mean, our contract to me for payroll is very simple, and this may be something that we discuss at some other point, maybe even at the table next year, we're paid for 220 days a year. And the chart shows how much we get paid per day. Why do they need all that stuff that Rod Brawley gave you, Robert, that, well, on this day for these many days of this month, you're going to get this, and then, but then the averages out to that. And it's like, it's like John said, they're making a mountain out of a molehill here. If my pay schedule is, 50 cents a day, it doesn't matter how many days in the month there are. I get paid 50 cents a day for 220 days. Do the math, make it simple. So every month I get X number of dollars in the story, unless of course I didn't use some leave time or something like that. But other than that, it shouldn't matter how many days are in a month when they figure this stuff out. And that's what I understand Brawley was talking about. Is it dependent on how many days a month you were working? It's like, why? I mean, if I missed a day, that's 1 day wages. End of story. But they got some flipping formula. And that may be something we get an accountant to look at and see if the state has to do it this way. Maybe we can come up with an easier system for them. Anyway, that's all my notes.
No, it's good, Terry. Yeah, it's going to be a big issue.
Can I ask a question? What is
Yep.
AR stand?
Accounts receivable. So if they've overpaid you and for some reason, they can do an accounts receivable and collect that money from you. Let me give you an example.
I got
Two years
that
ago,
before.
yeah, 2 years ago, they AR'd me for 26 cents. Yes, and
They AR'd you for what?
26 cents. Honest
Oh,
God's
wow.
truth. I'm not BSing you. I went to accounting. I had 30 cents. It says, Mr. Holtz, we don't have change. We can't take your money. It says, I'm not coming back. Keep my 30 cents. I'll see you some other time when I owe you money again. But it was just, they wanted me to go find a penny somewhere, and it's like, nope, here you go, here's your money. So yeah, it's an accounts receivable, and it's for a variety of reasons, and somehow I got overpaid 26 cents. How dare they? I don't even know what the hell I spent that extra 26 cents on. I'll have to go back and check my ledger.
That's so funny. What's interesting? The calendar, I didn't have too much friction in my job when it came out, but I think I had like 3 coworkers that reached out to me and said, well, can management do that and have us to come to work at 7? I said, well, if you're reading the memorandum, it's a memo that went to the principals that was disseminated down to us. OCE made the calendar, not management. So some of my coworkers that actually have it in for management, they keep thinking they can grieve everything. And I'm thinking, how's it you and I reading the same memorandum and you keep thinking management created that?
Well,
No, that's not first.
They can change hours work. That's not a problem. But there's this process of 30 days, I think, 50 days in emergency. So technically, now it's been going back and forth. Is that our notice? Is that an official notice? Or does a notice come, or does a notice have to be provided by our work site? So, I mean, I start at 7:30. I have no problem showing up at 7:30 if they don't notice me properly, and just to push that issue, or if that's even a worthwhile concern, or just mention it. I say let the chips fall where they may. I'm more of a rabble rouser and would have no problem showing up at 7:30. And if they said anything, I would say, well, I didn't get proper notice, because a little blurb on a calendar means nothing. I don't know that that's an official notification. Eloise kind of suggested it was, but again, it's all about interpretation when it comes to stuff like this.
There's no CDCR form that has any of that time switching outside of the contract. That is all them. I agree with you 100%. I'm showing up at 7:30. We have guys drafting in to go 12:30 to 8:30. And I said, they're not going to be nice. We're going to just say, you're going to have to notice us every month to change our schedule in a timely manner.
Yeah, that's the way it should go. or even if they do it once for the remainder of the year. I know. Look at Sue. What's up, Sue? Unmute, Sue. I've done the same thing a couple times today, so
Sorry.
don't worry.
You know, a lot of us who picked a certain different healthcare plan, you know, ended up getting ARs because they didn't get them done in time. So, you know, we were covered, but we didn't pay for it. So everybody got the 159 whatever dollars it was for the AR. You know, the history of this department, they will get their money, but they also have history of royally screwing up. So when we did have and we still do have the thing where you could take a month off without pay. Used to be you could take it off and then they dock your pay for the next year. But then all of a sudden, because we did that, I did that in the middle of us changing to the calendar and everything. Talk about a big hornet's nest. So I was overpaid by almost 10 grand, which kicked my salary up and eliminated my kid to get a scholarship. And I was waiting for over a year to repay that. And finally, I just went down and said, if you guys don't do this pretty soon, I'm going to go to the media. Because this is ridiculous when the state's belly aching about money and you've got, you know, all these teachers throughout the state with ARs and they're trying to pay them off. And, you know, you aren't giving us direction on how to do it. So I kind of understand why they want to limit it. However, there's so many reasons why people get ARs, and for 26 cents, you know, I don't think it's really a valid reason for this whole calendar debacle, but whatever. That's what they want to be. It just, to me, it shows OCE in very punitive and small way, and it's not positive. So I think they might be thinking about more positive ways to interact with their staff in the future.
I think Stephanie was taken a little bit aback. I think when we had the discussion in January, I think she was really like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I think consequently when Belinda, who was like, oh, I've been on this for 2 years, and Terry's like, well, I've been doing this sick and all this other stuff, is like, we were just like, again, taken aback. Stephanie was very reasonable, and somehow Belinda, I think, kind of convinced her that, no, this is the way it was, this is how we're done, blah, blah, blah. And that's how it was moving forward. But you got to remember the previous year, unfortunately, with Terry, he was dealing with Martin Griffin and Hillary Eisterman, who are less than reasonable in many parts of the contract. So, yeah, I said it. It's recorded. It's out there right now. Streaming live on SEIU 1000 page. Check us out. No, I'm kidding. Like us on Facebook.
Barbara Holt's bringing the ruckus.
And then, you know, Terry had probably one of the most way out ARs for a teacher at the military school in Los Alamitos. It was hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands.
It was, one was right at about 100 and the other one was started at about 70.
That's just ridiculous. That's the thing that we want to avoid for anybody. That's negligence on not our end.
And one of them, it was so bad the gal quit because of stress.
Yeah.
She couldn't even hang on to see the process through.
I have a question. I don't know if this is the correct time for me to ask it, but our 998s are considered legal documentation, correct? Once we sign it, does management have the right to make changes to our 998s without actually having us present or calling us to state, okay, because I'm having that issue in my work site where people are losing time, that my coworkers who actually do look at their Connect online, they're losing like an hour here, 2 hours there. And I started noticing the same thing was happening to me. And I'm going to have a meeting with my payroll specialist next Wednesday. I'm coming in a little bit earlier to catch up with her so I can see if any of my things have been changed, because I found out from another person that worked with management that our management team is doing some illegal things behind our backs and they're not being very honest with us. So I was going to reach out to you, Bob, in regards to what that would look like in regards to a grievance.
If I may pipe in, Edwana, you know, we've stuck to this for forever, and it talks about we're full day increments. Either they take 8 hours of credit or nothing. There's no 1
Okay.
hour here, 1 hour there. If they're doing that, the people need to grieve that. They need to voice their displeasure, because it's an all or nothing thing for us. We're one of the few people that have that happen. So if somebody looks at their statement and they see that 1 hour is missing a, PLP time or something, they need to ask why. I mean, immediately they need to ask why. And even if it's a few months down the road, they still need to ask why. And they need to start, I would think, with the pay specialist, just send them an email saying, hey, I noticed that, and for the month of February, an hour was taken off of my PLP time. What was the purpose of that? Get them to explain why they did what they did. They'll probably point back to management. Well, principal so-and-so said I need to do this. Then you can go to the principal and say, no, it's an all or nothing. Here's the contract. It's an all or nothing. Why do you think you can do this?
Exactly.
And so
some of my workers actually have FMLA, such as myself, and some of them are on workers' comp. And
now that's a little different.
Yeah, workers' comp, I know I'm not going to touch that, but for FMLA, like I have a coworker who might need to use like a 2 hours because one of my coworkers almost died of COVID. And so he has a lot of lingering effects as a result. So he has FMLA and he also has the workers' comp. So with the FMLA, even our payroll specialist supervisor stated that if he needs to utilize that time and he has a difficult time getting to work, that he can actually come in off his FMLA and it's not going to affect him. We had a big meeting grievance about it, and we sat down, and even the supervisor for payroll specialist said what she told the supervisors up front to their face, what you're doing is wrong. You need to stop doing it. Well, somehow they started slinking their way back into doing the same thing again. And I know that I have FMLA and I had to come to work a little bit late one day. I was not really feeling that well, but I said, let me try to get myself together, and I made it in. I looked at my Connect and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this hour off here? I didn't put in for an hour. So they're trying to figure out ways to punish us for not coming to work when they want us to be there. And so they're sneaking and they're making changes. And payroll is actually following through with it. So I'm like, wait a minute. So I started noticing myself there was like about an hour or so taken off my time. And I'm like, wait a minute, let me sit down and have a meeting and see what's going on here. And so one of the young women who was an OT that worked there, she actually became a member of the union recently, but it seemed like there might have been some sexual harassment going towards her. And there were some other things. So she eventually got herself moved recently, but she was giving me a lot of feedback on the things that she was discussing with management about why they're treating us and doing things behind our back to our 998. So
let me jump in, because you're asking an awful lot of questions, and to keep up with this. For us, they can track your FMLA or workman's comp, but all they're doing is tracking the hours. So if you left 2 hours early to go to because of FMLA or workers' comp, you would mark that on your 998, but you're not getting any time knocked off. They're not taking sick leave. They're not doing any of that. All they're doing is tracking the hours. That's appropriate. But if you put in 2 hours for workman's comp and then they dock you 2 hours to say sick time, that's because we're all or nothing. And no matter what we do, it's all or nothing. If they want to change your 998, they have to make you aware of it. Either at my site, they'll give me a call or they'll shoot me an email and say, hey, you goofed up here. We want to change this. And I'll shoot them back an email saying, sure, go ahead. And then they make it, we initial it. I'm aware of it. But if they make a change and you're not aware of it, that's wrong, because your supposition at the beginning is correct. They can't change it without your knowledge or your permission. So when you say you're missing a couple hours, is that because they're taking leave credit from you for that time, or they're just documenting that it happened? There's a
They're
difference.
actually taking, yeah, they're actually taking time off. I
Yeah, no.
look and I think I had 5 holiday credits and now I'm down to 2.
Yeah, no,
And I haven't taken any holiday credit at all.
no. You need to, again, talk to your payroll. When you go back to work tomorrow, shoot an email to your payroll specialist, said, hey, you know, I've been looking at this. I haven't taken any holiday. I'm down to 2. Where'd it go? And just ask them. And it'll probably take them a couple days to get around to it and send you an answer. But they're probably going to point back to the principal or send you a copy of your 988. Then we got another story. Now we've got some stuff, some evidence. We can look at your principal and go, what the hell is this?
Mhm.
You changed this. I didn't know anything about this. This is ridiculous. Either fix it right now, or we're going to have to grieve it and take it up the chain of command. And,
Okay.
you know, that's because that's a pretty serious thing. You're messing with somebody's timesheet.
Yeah,
Yes, because I ended up getting sick in January and I lost a lot of time and I was able to get it back due to COVID. And I'm like, in the end, I had to start participating in the voluntary personal leave program just to make sure I had something to cover myself because I do have FMLA for a reason. And so, as like I stated, I was waiting for everything to go through. So I almost got to the point to where, due to my FMLA usage, I almost got to the point to where I had days I was not going to get paid for. And so everything kicked in right in time. But the problem is, I'm like, wait a minute, why am I missing an hour here, an hour there, whatever? So once I go through the process of trying to grieve it, how soon should I be able to, can I demand that I receive all that time back that I lost due to them? Okay.
yeah.
Because I'm going to
so-
reach out to my colleagues and find out if it's still happening to them and see how many people want to be part of the grievance.
Yeah, I would check with, like Terry's right, with personnel specialists. The only thing I disagree with, I would not give, you know, try to get the principals and that to fix it. I would grieve it, because if you're saying they've done it before, they'll do it again if we don't have some type of, you know, paperwork to prevent them from doing that. And if they do it again, then it becomes kind of an egregious issue. And then you know, almost, you know, beyond a grievance, you know, more of a
Okay.
Office of Inspector General thing. So I've actually been thinking about, on certain issues, that OIG might be a place that we notice some issues on that could be looked at. I'm actually asking for self-study reports, committee reports from the WASP. That's my next kind of direction. I'm going to get it from CIW. They got a 2-year accreditation, and the long and short of it, the management teams make like the rank and file is the problem, and I've done a lot of accreditations, and more likely it's the management team, and I want to see what the committee said. What's up, Sue?
So I will say that I think it might be a little different with FMLA, and that's something that maybe we need to get more clarification on. But I know holiday credits and that kind of stuff should be taken, because OCE made a big deal about, like, even our informal time off at holidays, we have to wait now to have a whole 8 hours of it in order to take it off. So it's kind of like, you can't have it both ways. And apparently that hasn't gotten to all the managers or principals. So, but that FMLA may make us hourly employees. I'm not sure about that. I've heard that before briefly.
Terry says no.
Well-
And 19.1.3 says hours worked can't be taken in less than 8-hour increments. And the
Right.
idea that I had a fella come in 3 hours and then went home, and then he put in the request for time off leave, and they wrote on there, must take 8 hours. And I'm like, but you were there for 3. So, you know, wait a minute, that doesn't work.
So I think when we had a little bit of organizing and we were suggesting, or there was some with like Pelican Bay and some of the other 8 areas that a lot of people have to travel for to get medical, and there was some talk about just getting everybody to submit FMLA. The problem with it is it may be something where then they can take it, and so that's a question that we might need to get researched.
Well, I let Ed wanna get them to make that statement, is it said, hey, you know, if the specialist says under these circumstances, yada yada yada, and consequently we were allowed to take it, because I know what Terry's saying about tracking, because you're only allowed to take so many hours when it comes to workers' comp and some of the other things. And it's more of a tracking mechanism and not a means to take time from us. So I would put it back on them and quit trying to solve their problems, as John Richards said earlier. Let them figure it out. I'm kind of getting to the point with us trying to figure their shit out.
No,
Yeah.
in
Well,
any
no,
case,
seriously.
no matter what
Robert,
they've
I'm serious.
taken, they should always talk to you about it, because it's your time. It's
Well,
not their time.
Hey, Robert.
So
I'm talking about with a lot of issues, because what I'm seeing, if you work at a place where you have reasonable management, there's not an issue. And when you have places where there's unreasonable management, there's lots of issues. And it always boils down to an interpretation. And it's usually a really limited or horrible interpretation by that place where you're having problems. So if we're having problems, I want to change that dynamic and utilize the fact to say, hey, well, that's not how it's going in other places, and you guys kind of need to stop. So add Tawana, find out what's going on, keep me in the loop. And 19.1.3 is definitely a place that would grieve, and we'll look at other places. And like I said, I'm going to pull apart our contract and get it to where we have just Unit 3 specific stuff. And like I said, I'll have it out just before the end of May.
Hey, can I give something that I was a payroll specialist the other day and an example of what Atwana was saying?
Sure.
So I was representing just another teacher, a lot of stress, a lot of mental health issues right now. And the specialist took us over to basically workman's comp and just a different office. And they explained it very clearly. You have 480 hours of the FMLA, which I didn't know, but you never, ever, ever lose any of your time bank, but they do track that 480 hours of FMLA. So if she takes 2 hours to get herself together in the morning, that would be 2 hours on FMLA. If they're taking her time, they owe her that time back because of what you were just saying. So we have to be clear on what we're asking for. Also, they have IDL, which I never knew until the other day. It's an industrial leave program where you have well over a year if you have documentation that COVID's caused you stuff. So between the FMLA and the IDL, you have darn near 2 years to get yourself put back together. And at that same time, they're not taking your time bank, your PDDs, your P&Ls, and all the stuff that you could use or lose along the way. So I do know that you are absolutely correct. If your management is changing your 998, your signature's on the bottom and their signature's below it. And if that is not true, they are falsifying a state document. That's one of the easiest ways to get picked apart at CDCR for sure. You don't get to do that. They don't get to change anything that you sign without every time bringing it to you. And if you notice Cal Connect, you need to grieve immediately if it's not your FMLA time that they're adding to. So they're going to go 480. And if you took 2, then it'll be 478 and 476, whatever. But if they take ITO or any of your holidays, oh, no.
Okay, thank you for the clarity, because when we actually had a grievance meeting with the personal specialist supervisor, she said the exact thing, and she told management, you cannot take their time for FMLA. And somehow the same two management, the vice principal and the principal, they're going around doing it again behind our back. And I do have a meeting with the personnel specialist on Wednesday morning. She has a varied schedule, so it's kind of hard for me to catch her on one day versus another. So I'm just going to come in a little bit earlier on Wednesday at 7 to meet with her before I start at 7:30. And so I'll go from there. But our previous specialist, she never took time from me. And the specialist I have now was brand new, even though she's a lot more pleasant to work with, but she's new and she's never done this before. So she's following everybody's recommendations, but she doesn't understand that it's actually being done incorrectly.
Yeah. Hey, and one other thing that our specialist told us very, very clearly, that's not a grievance issue. That's a complaint issue. That's internal affairs. You do not get to change my 998. You can grieve the specialist taking your time because that's a bargaining unit 3 for what Robert and Terry were talking about, which is where your FF will falsely exempt. But if they change your 998, that changes the playing field a little bit from contractual to DOM and then a complaint process where somebody actually falsified a document for the state of California, which you're going to get a lot more play and a lot more final solution than just a grievance to your specialist. And she did say, hey, take that to internal affairs. Nobody falsifies your 998.
I would get copies of your 998, and I would suggest get copies of the other individuals to see if there's been some, because somebody has to put those numbers down and then they initial it. Or even if those numbers appeared and you didn't put them in there, then consequently, like John's saying, I agree with that. To me, it disflores me that somebody would do that, but hey, I had a sergeant serve me the Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity at Denny's in Blythe after she decided to take up with a parolee. So nothing surprised me anymore.
So, to be honest with you, I wasn't actually going to grieve the payroll specialist. I was going to grieve the management. So you're saying that would be an incorrect move?
My understanding from the personnel specialist, who, like I said, is very good. She said they're the ones that are actually changing your time. That the management is just making the recommendation. The department in charge of your time banks is not your principal or your vice principal. They are your immediate supervisor, and they simply sign that you worked the days you worked. So there's 3 signatures. One is yours with a date. The next one down is your supervisor. And sometimes at ours, like there's a supervisor. So you have 3 eyes on it. And so if you know that you took 2 sick days, self-sick, and then they add a 3rd day on, the person who accepts that document will then come after your principal. And they have way more teeth than we do. When you start screwing around with people's paychecks in California, it's a crisis. It's not okay. That 998, that is that little 998 inside of a bracket, that's a state form. Everything else, grievance, contract, nobody cares as much about that as they do about like somebody falsifying you were there for an 844 training, or they falsify your 998. That's falsifying state documents. Holy cow. That's a big one. That is a big one. That is no joke. And so our personnel specialist said you grieve them, and then they take it up with whoever changed it. And like I said, it's a complaint. It's a complaint immediately to the guys with the black badges.
Okay, so when I have my meeting, should I also reach out to her supervisor who actually knows better and see if she can be a part of the meeting in regards to solving the problem?
I mean, whatever works for you. You always get as many people in the room as you can to solve the problem at the lowest level, for sure. If the young person doesn't know, you're going to get to that lady anyway. So set it up with set it up with both of them so that you can have an understanding that you're dead serious about following the state policies and protocols.
Yeah, and I would ask for copies of your 998. That would be my first thing to see. Rather than speculating what's happening, actually look at what they have as the record of your work for the months that are in question. And if there is some irregularities, then consequently, John's right on target. And we'll move from there. We'll move strategically. They should be doing stuff like that. That's not.
Yeah. The funny thing is that I receive a copy every month. For 2 months ago, I didn't receive one. And I reached out to management. I said, can you put a copy in my mailbox? She responds to all of my emails, never responded, and it never ended up in my mailbox. And so I was like, okay, now this is a little bit bizarre. And so when I talked to the young lady who had an issue with management, who's now in another department, from my understanding, what I think they're doing, I think they're signing off on the forms, putting a copy in our mailbox, and then they're doctoring the original after they've made the copies and then sending them to the payroll specialist.
Wow, that's
So
hugely
you
wrong.
ask for a copy from the payroll specialist. They'll send you a copy of it.
Yeah.
It's
And if
like
there's
the
any
old song where
changes-
one thing doesn't look like the other. You don't get to
Yeah.
do that.
John, you mentioned something about having 480-hour work bank for FMLA.
Correct.
So that might be because of something that was awarded, but if you use FMLA, usually it's coming out of your sick leave. At least mine has been for my mom, because I've got it for my mom. She's 94. Occasionally I have to get her to appointments and whatnot.
We are
So-
false exempt. They do not take that time, and that is on your FMLA. They do not take your sick time.
Well, I will be checking that because I think they have been.
Nobody knows we have so many leave banks that unless you get a good personnel specialist and then you have institutional knowledge and then a lot of emails, and then if you go to Cal HR and then your personnel specialist can walk you through that FMLA, you have 480 hours. So if you use 4 hours or 8 hours, that comes off your FMLA because you have that doctor's note that says for this amount of time, Sue is going to take her mother and be a primary caregiver. That doesn't come off your sick. That doesn't come out of your sick bank.
Well, I'll be
You're
checking
false
that
exempt.
out. I'll be checking that out because I think it has.
Okay.
The other thing is this might indicate that we could use some good training for all of us, so then we could then help our teachers, because our contract is confusing a bit when it comes to all this, because we are an exception. We're not the regular thing. So that's what I would say. If we could get with some Unit 1 folks that could offer us the 411 on this, that would be wonderful.
So somebody in Sacramento who is at payroll, who is maybe in our bargaining unit or not in our bargaining unit, but in our union group.
Mhm.
Like Robert, we were on the call with somebody from PERS the other day and they were very knowledgeable. We have to have somebody there who's a bargaining unit 3 specialist for the actual state. And if they're in our information, and they are the ones that do the information, then they can enlighten all of us, and we can send out through our network the things that we have coming. Because I just learned about IDL 2 weeks ago when I was helping somebody else. I didn't know anything about it, and they go, "No, you get this here. You don't take any of your sick bank. If you come in from if your psychologist or psychiatrist says you're good for 4 hours a day, you come to work and then you work your 4 hours. That's a meaningful day." But they will take the 4 hours of your FMLA. They'll just notch that you took 4 hours, but you don't lose anything. Now, if you take 8 hours for FMLA, they don't take a sick day. They just take 8 hours. And when you get up to that 480 hours, which is a lot of hours, if you're using, here, there, and everywhere, then you can go to IDL next, which is, again, not off your time banks. So.
Do you happen to have anything
Keep
in?
your time banks intact for when you really have some issues.
So there is something that you do have to work a certain amount of hours to get union leave, and also you have to work a certain amount of hours to even qualify for FMLA, because that's why in CDCR you apply for it and then they get back to you because they check to see, are you at work enough to get it.
Well, it's 11 days a month. It's 11 days a month when you have time on your books. But if you're going to use multiple time banks, you just need to know which ones they are. You can use 24 hours FMLA, 1 full day of 8 hours ITO. You just need to make sure you're working your 11 hours or 11 days a month.
Okay.
Time in your
So,
time.
John, I wanted to ask you a question real quick, because one of my coworkers that I did have a meeting with the specialist supervisor, he actually told me what you just mentioned about the FMLA leave bank. And when I contact the same supervisor, she said that is not true. And I've always had sick time removed anytime I use my FMLA, or that's what I was chosen to utilize. And she said there's no such thing as a bank. And so
you're false exempt. So if you go for 4 hours or a meaningful work day, according to Terry, your meaningful workday is away from students, but that FMLA just comes off a time bank. They don't take 4 hours or 2 hours. They have to take it in full day increments. And so they backfill your false exempt with your FMLA.
I think there might be a bit of difference if the FMLA might have come from workman's comp or something else. I don't know. I think,
You know, you have to have a doctor's note that says from this time period to this time period, these are the modifications you need to support either yourself or somebody else.
right. And that's something that you go through and get from the process of it. So
Right. So
I
you
think
have
this
that.
clarifies that we could use some more training in it, because I think there's, and
I'm
I
not
will
an
say,
expert.
I have been waiting and waiting, but as far as since I've been involved with SBAC, there's never been a personnel specialist that's been on SBAC or on the bunk. They need to be, because they work super hard, and
Oh, man.
it's a complex job. It takes about 18 months to even get trained. And that's according to their supervisors.
You know what's funny? There's 34 prisons left for the men's prisons, or 34 total prisons left until the governor shuts down the next whatever.
Yeah, we all saw that. That's gonna.
They're all different. They're all different, and the personnel specialist is critical to what we do because we are complex. So that is a great idea, Sue. We definitely can get somebody from there. We just have to figure out who that person is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk to. Are they in
Susan.
1 or 4, Susan? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They're in
All
one.
right. Well, I think I appreciate all. I think we got a really great team, and I think what a lot of experience here, variety of different experience, and I think what really and I welcome Roman now. This is great. We got a full team, and we got the state pretty well covered. And I really, in the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear a lot from me. You're going to get some information out to you, and then bargaining's right around the corner. But I think getting you the one document about Unit 3 specific will help. Look at the calendar, talk to people, and say, hey, where are you thinking about going with this? There are different schools of thought. I want more, not less. And I'll be getting taking a look at the schedule that Melissa put together for the chairs tour. I don't necessarily want to be moving around that much. This would be kind of it'd wear me out. So I think it'd be best to utilize people that are in those areas, and it also, I think Terry giving me and working with other chairs in the past gives me experience, got experience myself, and as a team we all kind of work together, and we I can't think of a term. It's been a long weekend, but we crowdsource, right? We're going to work this stuff out. We're hearing ideas today that we're all kind of counter to what we understood. I do follow the track that John's saying, because like I said, and the supervisors play a big role in the way they want this meaningful work day. Somebody that came to worked 3 hours and had to go for no fault of their own, and for supervisors to say that he has to use all 8 hours, that to me was just ridiculous. It's just counter to the whole false exempt. So yeah, we're going to kind of move forward with that. Appreciate your time this weekend. Get on your schedule for the first Wednesdays. Ask your principals, say, hey, I want to be on the schedule. I'm going to be on the schedule at CIW coming up. I was on the one at CIM, 15 minutes. I think Wendy had done it. I don't know if any of the others, but you have every right, and it's access. We're not interrupting anything. And I want to hear back to see who's getting access during those days, because that's the legitimate use of time. So appreciate your time out here Sunday. Go out and enjoy the rest of the day. If Maureen was on here, we would know what the weather was like. Hopefully I did well with my honoring her, and we got a great team, and I'm really looking forward to working with everybody. All good?
Thank you everyone for your time. It was my honor serving you this SBAC. Hope you enjoy your Sunday.
Everybody have a good
Bye.
weekend. What's left of it.
Thank you, Olga. Thanks,
Bye.
Bob.
Thanks, Olga.